Sarah's question on fat. So I'm going to quickly review her question. I'm going to give you guys a little bit about it. And then I actually have a client call between 7:30 and 8, and then at 8 we're going to watch the open announcement. Tonight we will do just what we did last week. We'll do an open strategy piece for you guys so that you guys can all go pay it forward, especially based on the success of last week. So again, feel free to ask questions. It's not necessarily what I'm here for in terms of a Q&A, but always happy to answer questions if you guys have them. So Matthew's podcast, you'll hear me talk about how the Minnesota starvation study, which is kind of the gold standard in terms of reverse dieting, taking somebody that's metabolically adapted and creating that recovery, really doesn't take into account any hormonal repercussions of excessive exercise. It sounds like you're potentially working with a clientele that would fit that Minnesota starvation study type avatar, so that's great. You said that a great bit of detail is given for athletes and you're comfortable with that aspect. You just don't want to shortchange the average soccer mom and her fats because they are essential. So they are essential. First of all, fats are an essential nutrient. Proteins and fats are essential. We cannot live without them, meaning like carbohydrates being the non-essential nutrient. We do not need carbohydrates to live. We need proteins and fats in order to survive. So they must be present in our diet.
What's 18.3?
18.3 is a CrossFit workout.
Oh.
So a lot of the people that Jason works with, it's a workout they've got to do. So Jason tells them what they're going to eat to do really well in the workout.
There you go.
Is Jason the boss of you guys? Yes.
Jason's the boss.
Is he like, don't do it?
Exactly like that.
Like, don't do your health problems right now.
Go do my health problems?
You know what?
Coming out, like bar muscle ups are coming out, like I definitely can see that. But yeah, let's see what it is before we go all
What do you think 18.3 will be?
To be like chest bar, and I'm like, oh yeah, 40 extra carbs, right?
Heavy weights.
Heavy weights? Okay, so that's one thing. You got to guess two more things. Chest bar.
What?
Chest bar.
So let's kind of see what it is here.
What?
Chest to bar.
Make the changes there.
Oh.
You think it's going to be chest to bar?
I think that's the
Yeah.
best.
That's a good guess.
And
Very
then-
logical.
And then the third one
make sure that you're recovered. You
is
can let me know if it's going to be Friday or Saturday.
Squats. Good guess.
squat 1,000 pounds.
1,000 pounds?
Yeah.
Easy. All day.
Sound
And
good?
what would you eat if you wanted to do well in that workout?
Awesome.
Oh, I want to
amazing-
eat apples with peanut butter.
Nice.
You're crushing it.
No vegetable.
Apples with peanut butter.
Favorite.
They need carbs.
They need what?
Carbs.
I mean, circle.
And I'm able to do that, but 90% of the time I'm in a position where I'm like, hey, if the family wants to eat out, I eat out. If they don't, if I need to skip a training session, I skip a training session. And is that conducive to being 100% compliant to a program? No, but no one's asking to be 100% compliant to a program because I understand that you need to live a life of balance.
The second movement is the ring muscle up. This time on the bar.
Seconds. You're going to have to suck it up if you can, because you're not going to probably get to the last set. I think one thing to really trust in yourself is when you get done with your double unders and back to the rings is that
Raw thoughts just before you go in the inner circle. What do you think?
Speechless. There's so many things to consider here because this might be the single hardest prescription I think I've ever had to give, because the level people will achieve in this workout will be so different relative to who they are. Like, the dose response that Neil and Kyle got will be completely different than the dose response that you and I get, will be completely different than the dose response from somebody who has gotten like one muscle up in their life. And so here we are writing a prescription for the masses that we want to be functional, that we want everyone to be able to use, yet for the first time ever, I think it's going to be completely different. I agree. What's up, guys? Holy shit. Is anybody else like blown away? Because I'm like, we just did a preview video and hi Gwen. I'm speechless, guys. I really like this one. This might be the single hardest open workout to prescribe for. There's so many things that go into this. They need to be as light as possible. We know a shift from fats to carbohydrates is going to keep the scale weight down. There's not extreme to keep inflammation at bay. And so this is going to come down to food quality. It's going to come down to recovery modalities. Making sure they're salting their foods to remain hydrated and not allowing the inflammation to come up. Just the smallest things, guys, are going to become super important. Predict the male and female winner of this workout. And if anybody gets one, either or, you don't have to get both. If anybody gets one, I will comp your next course.
I'm trying to think who's really good at dubs. Who's really good at dubs?
Travis Mayer.
Female?
I have no idea on female. All right, guys, good morning. Caffeinated, ready to tackle what is maybe the most, I don't know what the word is, mind-numbing, but completely confusing workout that I think we've ever seen come out in the open relative to a fuel strategy.
My God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm. What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure? Stay calm!
Now, on the surface, the workout's super simple. 3-4 different movements, 800 double unders. I'm shocked that Castro pulled 800 double unders into an open workout. I know we've seen high volume dubs before, but we've never seen anything like this. And, I think he really is just dropping the hammer this year, saying, this open's not like any other. We're really going to separate who's really an athlete, who's not. But even the scale division, having to get pull-ups, and there's some people that are going to struggle to get a pull-up. So he's definitely going for it this year, and we have to be prepared from a fuel standpoint to go in and to get it. So I've actually made a couple notes in the computer. There's so many pieces that I wanted to cover. And when it first came out last night, I immediately thought of the workout from an athlete perspective, and that's all well and good. And I think a lot of the gurus that are out there are going to talk about it athletically, but I realize so many of you watching this are on so many different levels. I'm going to break this down from 3 different avatars. Avatar number 1 is going to be those of you guys that are higher level athletes, those of you that are looking to get to that regional level, maybe even games level. Avatar number 2 is going to be you're proficient in all the movements, you have no aspirations of getting to that regional level, but you do want to maximize your score. You're not going to get hung up on any of the movements specifically. You just don't have the capacity, the muscle endurance that a higher level athlete would. And then avatar number 3 is going to be those of you guys that are going to struggle on any of the movements. Maybe you don't have the stability for the overhead squat. Maybe you're going to get to the ring muscle ups and hope you get your first muscle up. Or maybe you're going to get to the bar muscle ups and hope you get your first muscle up. So let's consider those as we go through, and we'll make some notes. So the first thing we always hit on, guys, is the night before. Now, I do think this workout, because of the muscle endurance involved, the localized muscle endurance to the shoulders, does warrant extra carbohydrate the night before. However, it's not like last week's workout where it's super intensive. And so I think that instead of adding 30 to 60 grams, you're safe to add anywhere from 15 to 30 grams. Also, guys, let's remember we're in the 3rd week of the Open. There is a recovery debt. We talked about that in last week's blog. So even if you don't think you need the extra fuel, consider the fact that your nervous system is not super fresh, and that little bit of extra carbohydrate will give you the push that you need going into this workout. And that's for all 3 avatars, guys. However, this week I'm going to harp on something that I've probably never harped on in Opens before, which is when you're considering fueling up, I think you should be using the cleanest, most nutrient-dense sources available. Remember, this workout is localized largely to the shoulders. Of course, there's endurance and aerobic and anaerobic capacity that are going to come into play, but the muscle trauma is all going to be localized in the shoulder. The inflammation that comes from that is going to be severely pronounced. Guys, if you have any aspirations of repeating this workout, you absolutely need to be doing everything you can to minimize inflammation. Some of you guys that are going into the first workout that are going to struggle with the overhead squat, it's a position-based thing. The muscle up, maybe it's thoracic mobility like myself. Reducing inflammation is going to help you move better. Even if it's incrementally, it is going to help. As you can see, guys, my dogs are fired up. You can probably hear it. That's cool. They're excited for 18.3 as well. I apologize for the noise. But Guys, fuel up, get some extra carbohydrates, use micronutrient dense sources, keep inflammation at bay. So if you've done a food sensitivity test and you know certain foods don't agree with you, avoid them. If you feel in any way that certain foods don't agree with you, avoid those. This is the week to prioritize food quality. We've never done it in open prep before. This is the week to do it. So going into it, the day of. So let's start with avatar number 3, and let's start with a morning workout. Guys, this is a great workout to do fasted. Obviously, with so many body weight movements like the ring muscle ups, bar muscle ups, being able to move through them quickly, not feeling weighed down, going to be very important. So if you're fasted, you're great. We added those carbs in the night before. You've got plenty of energy. You should be good to go. As you know, there is an endurance component to this. Being able to breathe first thing in the morning when you're fasted is obviously enhanced. So we're going to roll with that. I am recommending the majority of you guys, if you can do it early in the day, I definitely think so. You're going to be your lightest. You're going to breathe your best. So if you're fasted, I'm going to recommend, if you're avatar number 3, and remember, this is the higher level athlete, I'm going to recommend having a high molecular weight carb, about 25 to 50 grams of a cyclic dextrin with your BCAAs before you go to the gym. So about 20 to 30 minutes before your workout or before your warm-up, you're going to have your highly branched cyclic dextrin with your aminos, and then you're going to go in the gym, you're going to warm it up, you're going to get your energy systems ramped up, and you're going to go. Now, if you're avatar number 2, I'm going to suggest the exact same thing. Probably going to err on the low side of that. We're going to say 25 grams cyclic dextrin, your normal serving aminos, anywhere 5 to 10 grams, and then you're going to go in, you're going to hit your warm-up, and you're going to go. If you're avatar number 1, if you think you're going to get caught up on any of the movements, I would consider just going fasted. I don't think you're going to need any appreciable amount of extra fuel. This isn't truly a 14-minute workout for you. You're not going to get the same degree of muscle endurance or even aerobic capacity that, say, avatar 2 or 3 would. So just consider go in fasted, have your aminos like you normally would in a fasted state, and just go in, be ready, lots of movement, and give it your all. Try to get that first muscle up. Try to get that first bar muscle up. For those of you guys that are not doing it first thing in the morning, the recommendation this week is to keep your fats as low as possible throughout the day. And, I went back and forth on this. So we talked about inflammation earlier. Obviously, classically for a longevity-based prescription where we're talking about keeping inflammation at bay, we're actually talking about the reduction of carbohydrates. Unfortunately, in this workout, guys, the reduction of carbohydrates doesn't work. You have to have carbohydrate to fuel muscle endurance, right? Muscle contraction comes from carbohydrate, or prolonged muscle contraction, comes from carbohydrate. You have to have the carbs in. So instead of bringing your carbs down, we're going to bring the fats down to hedge on the body weight side. Everybody, when you pull your fats out immediately, even if you're eating a little bit of extra carbs, you feel a little bit lighter. Now, whether or not that's reflected on the scale doesn't matter. I'm not telling you to go get on the scale. In fact, I would encourage those of you with issues around your body weight not to get on the scale. But if you feel lighter, placebo tells you you're going to get on those rings, you're going to crush it, you're going to get that first muscle up, or you're going to get all 12 muscle ups unbroken, depending on which avatar you fit. So we're going to tell you to stay low fat throughout the day. Get in the majority of your carbohydrates prior to the training session. So even if that means we're going to go over for the day after the workout, completely fine. We want you fueled up, but we want you staying light. So low fat throughout the day, whether you're doing it midday, whether you're doing it in the evening. Keep those fats as low as possible. Get those proteins, carbohydrates in. You should be ready to rock and roll. Now, specific to the pre-workout itself, I'm going to recommend your final meal come about 2 hours out. I'm not going to want anything inside of that. Remember, we said we want you close to fasted. So if we can keep you at that 2 hour window, you should be golden. Protein, carbohydrate meal, no fat, no fiber, very easy digesting, foods that you're comfortable with, foods you've used in the pre-workout window before. And this goes for all 3 avatars, guys. No matter who you are, you want to go in feeling your best, feeling your lightest, feeling like you're ready to crush it. And so that's what we'll do pre-workout. I don't have any other specific notes there. Last week we broke it up into when you should time your fats relative to what time of day you're training. This week we're not necessarily having any fat, so I don't think we need to bring that up. Intra-workout. Guys, there's no intra-workout protocol this week. if you've been doing your job, if you've been having enough protein, carbohydrate, and fat throughout the day, you're not going to be needing that immediate energy source. If you guys are doing it fasted, perhaps you're still sipping, but I don't think there's any break in this workout to even be sipping anything. So there's no intra-workout nutrition. I actually think if you're doing intra-workout nutrition, it just shows that you've mismanaged everything else across the board. So guys, let's talk post-workout. This is super important. I think even if you're avatar number 1, guys, you're going to be adding carbohydrate post-workout. So remember, avatar number 3, that's our athlete. We are absolutely going to be adding a minimum of 1 extra scoop of cyclic dextrin, 25 grams extra cyclic dextrin there, probably up to 50 grams extra in this window. This is it's intensive on the shoulders. It's probably one of the few workouts you'll ever do that really targets one muscle group like this in CrossFit. Bodybuilders are used to that stimulus. CrossFitters maybe not. We definitely want to make sure we have that localized muscle recovery. But CNS-wise, guys, there is an impact here. It's not physically demanding, like picking up a heavy deadlift, like doing a heavy clean, but there's a lot of mental stress that's going to go in. Double unders are a skill-based movement. And remember, your nervous system is activated in skill-based movements as well. So then you're going to be looking at the rings, trying to get in that last muscle up, trying to get yourself back to that rope, freaking out. Just that elevated sympathetic nervous system activity does require extra recovery. So guys, avatar 3 athletes, let's consider 25 to 50 extra grams of recovery. Avatar number 2, guys that are proficient in every movement, a minimum of 25 grams extra. That should be sufficient for you guys. And even avatar number 1, consider an extra 15 to 25 grams. Why? Because you're going to be stressing, right? You're going to be doing these double unders. You're going to be trying to get to those rings. You're going to be giving it your all, trying to get that first muscle up. There's a lot of sympathetic nervous system activity there, cortisol release relative to the stress you're imposing on yourself to try to get that movement, try to get that first muscle up, and I really hope you do. So definitely consider some extra carbohydrate there. Last week we prescribed a lot of extra carb throughout the evening. So, we had some athletes consuming over 100 grams extra carbs per day. Guys, I'm not going to require nearly as much this week. I think as long as you're getting your extra carbs in post-workout, if you're avatar 3 or 2, I'd consider an extra 25 at dinner max. Not really thinking you're going to need anything, but let's go back to the opening statement. Let's make sure all of those foods are very high quality, micronutrient dense, and something that is going to keep inflammation at bay. If you have any desire to repeat this workout, I definitely need you keeping your inflammation down. So going home, loading up on that pizza, having that burger and fries. Whereas in weeks prior, I would say that's 100% okay. This week, not sure it's the best idea. I definitely think that you guys should be just getting in high quality sources. Suck it up for 1 week. I know it's the open. I know we use it as an excuse to have some cheat meals. Not this week, guys. Keep the inflammation down, but don't do it at the expense of getting in the extra fuel. Get those extra carbs in. And if you're somebody eating 600-700 grams, a little bit of sugar, not going to kill you. Just make sure you're not getting in all the sugars. If you're avatar number 1, you're going for those extra muscle ups, I'm not really seeing the need to increase carbohydrates on a day-to-day basis. Now, interestingly enough, I told you guys to keep your fats low earlier. Consider this shift. I don't know you, but consider this. Consider shifting some of your macros around for the next 5 days. Some of my higher end athletes will be bringing their fat intake down by 10 to 15 grams and will be bumping carb intake up 30 to 40 grams. Now, calorically, that's about the same, but we're just shifting the energy that they're going to need. They absolutely need carbohydrate for this workout. They're not going to need as many fats. We want to keep them light. That shift to carbs to fats, or that shift from fats to carbs, this time of year typically lends itself to a little bit of weight loss, but more direct fuel. So if that's something you're comfortable with, consider playing around with it. Consider bringing your fat intake down, getting your carbs up for the next 4 or 5 days. You'll have that fuel. You'll be nice and light. You should be golden. And that goes for all 3 avatars. So we covered the rest of the day. Guys, the next day, I don't think you're going to have lost a significant amount of glycogen. It's not direct muscle contraction as much as it is like isometric with those shoulders. So I think that, the carbohydrates you had the day before should be sufficient. I don't really think you're going to need to add anything the day after. That being said, because we're looking at managing inflammation, I need you guys to look into other recovery modalities. Go float, go, go get some ART, go get some massage, whatever it is, guys, start looking into other recovery modalities. And again, keeping your food quality high. This is the first time I've ever harped on it, but I'm going to keep going there. I'm going to keep bringing it up to you. Get that food quality up. Make sure you're not adding to your inflammation from this workout. The workout is plenty, believe me. You're going to be feeling it. You don't need to be adding to that from your diet. Also, controlling your stressors, guys. That's another way to keep your inflammation down. So make sure you're sleeping adequately. Make sure you're not overstressing things. Take the naps when you can. Just do all of those things. In terms of repeatability, guys, I definitely think that this one can be repeated. I don't think anyone, except for the high-level athletes, are really going to cause a significant amount of muscle damage. So absolutely repeat it, especially if you're Avatar 1, you're trying to get that first muscle up. Give it a go as many times as you can. Get through that 100 dubs, get through those overhead squats, another 100 dubs, and then have at it on the rings. Just make sure you're recovering appropriately. If you're Avatar number 3, I think this is going to be a tough one to repeat the second time. Even though you may not directly feel your shoulders underlying, they're going to have a hard time producing that same level of output. So that being said, really make sure you're prioritizing that recovery between attempts, just like we talked about. And remember, I said I would add carbohydrates the night before if given the opportunity. So if you're going to repeat it, yes, you're going to have more carbohydrates today on your first attempt. Yes, you're going to have more carbohydrates on Sunday night before your second attempt Monday. And then you're going to get more carbs in prior to the training session than you normally would. So you will be loading up to an extent. We're just not doing it on the days in between, like Saturday, like we did last week. Guys, final thoughts from a supplementation standpoint: turmeric, curcumin, things like that to control inflammation this week. Really good idea. We really haven't talked supplements the first 2 weeks because they haven't been needed, but I'm going to give you a couple things to consider. So like I said, turmeric, curcumin, really good ideas to control inflammation. BCAAs for localized muscle recovery. BCAA EAAs. No one's talking about EAAs. Guys, they're essential. They're essential amino acids. They are what they say they are. Get in a mixture of both. And I would recommend 2 to 3 servings per day. We're going to keep that protein synthesis up. We're going to help those muscles repair as fast as possible. So I would recommend 2 to 3 servings a day. Obviously, one of those being pre-workout, the other 2 just being away from the session. And the final piece on supplements, guys, I think a lot of people here are going to immediately look to things like beta-alanine, sodium bicarb, that in research have been talked about as potentially buffering lactic acid. There's nothing wrong with them. Some of the research is definitely valid. However, if you're not used to experimenting with them, I do not think this is the time to implement them. So, I've had questions last week about sodium bicarb, and 80% of the people I know, the first time they try it, they end up shitting their pants. So not a good idea, especially in an open workout. So, if you're familiar with beta-alanine, you like the paresthesia effect, you like to feel, the tingles, and that gives you the placebo effect that you're going to buffer lactic acid, by all means go do it. If you've never taken it and those tingles will freak you out, don't start today. But guys, there you have it. 18.3, I feel sufficiently broken down. A little bit of extra food the night before. Understand what you need pre-workout based on when you're doing it, who you are. Understand your recovery based on who you are, and then just take it from there, guys. Hope this helps. Enjoy the video. If you have questions, leave your comments below. We will do our best to answer them. We're also in the inner circle. We posted up our initial thoughts last night. If you guys want questions or you want direct access to us, just join us over there. Otherwise, best of luck to you in 18.3. This one's going to crush me. Teddy and I have a little series going right now. We're 1-1. He's going to crush me on this one. So, guys, pray for me on 18.4 and 18.5. But if you have questions, hit me up. Good luck. We'll see you guys soon.